football stuff.
We are ready now. So the way this is going to work, it's going to be a 6x6 board. Me and Aggie are going to be teammates. Hey, Aggie, can you hear me?
I can. Hello.
Oh, okay. So shout out. Oh, wow. Wow. Aggie, you look so good right there.
Wait, I also have a Christmas hat on. Hang on.
ADEF also has a Christmas hat on. Discord's unmuted. Stop yelling at me. It's unmuted. Well, tell Eddie that Discord's unmuted and he can suck my butt. Sorry. I apologize, guys. I was yelling at
Brandon. Start talking now?
I don't know. I have no idea. All I hear is game.
So I brought my bingo friends along here.
Samantha in the camera.
You know what? I'm just gonna let Domo and Bushi take this. You know, you guys, Bushi. I always say Bushi.
I also definitely can't hear them. I have no idea if you can.
No, I can only hear the game. I think they mentioned that we can't hear the players.
Yep.
At all.
We can hear them though. Why can we hear them?
I assume we're gonna get like a thumbs up or something. I hope. I swear to God. Oh. Okay. Sounds good.
Wait. Why can? Hey.
All right.
Hey,
welcome in, guys, to some good old Elden Ring bingo. Going to be doing a good 2v2 match here. GrandPooBear versus and Aggie versus V-Sweat and ADEF. This is the first time that we're doing the Season 4 mod with 2 players on each team. And it's going to be a 6 board instead of a 5-5 board, which means there is 36 squares rather than 25. It's a little bit of extra board to play with for both teams. It's going to be really interesting to see because we haven't even tested this out yet to see how it works. So that would be cool. How's it going, Bushy?
It's going great. Any bingo day is a good day as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
As you mentioned, 6x6, a little bit different than 5x5, and I imagine a lot of you guys that are watching right now aren't super familiar with bingo, so let's break down exactly what it is. These players will get a list of objectives. There's going to be 36 of them on the board, and the goal is to accomplish those objectives. Now, the real kicker here is as soon as one team claims one, the other team cannot claim that same square. So that leads to all sorts of like blocking in order to prevent bingo lines and things like that. And as we can see, we now have our board up on the screen here.
A lot of things to look at.
6x6 glory. Let's go through some of these objectives.
Yeah, we got quite a few for sure.
Yep. I see Mikola's crosses immediately. That's going to be a little bit of a fast square. Bloodfiend's arm +0, also a bit of a fast one. I would expect the players to be prioritizing those a little bit early on. We also have 3 NPC bosses. Not exactly the fastest, but it is something to kill. And if you go to kill bosses, that means gaining some runes, and gaining some runes means making your character stronger, which means making the rest of the game easier for yourself. Sell Great Katana +0 and sell Bloodfiend's arm +0. Now, something really interesting here is in 2v2, that's not as big of a sacrifice as it would be in 1v1, because your teammate can still use the weapon that you would be selling.
I'm not gonna lie, I think we have all 4 streams playing sound at the same time, and it is crazy what I'm hearing right now. Also, keep in mind that there is this 6x6 board, and there's 4 screens. There's a lot happening. This is pretty much like how Season 3 went for Bingo Brawlers, where we had 2v2 teams. So we are missing things, but it's going to be great. There's going to be action left and right happening here for like all 4 players. So if we do miss something, however, that's just going to be our bad. You know, looking at 4 screens with everyone doing something at the exact same time, it's bound to happen. But yeah, as Bushy already mentioned, this is lockout. So if one team gets a square, the other person, or the other team in this case, cannot get that square. So it's a lot of trying to claim as much ground as you can early on, for sure, especially in the DLC, as if you haven't played the Elden Ring DLC yet, is a lot smaller than the base game, and everything's kind of like layered like a cake when it comes to how the map is built. So you can get to locations a lot quicker. And a lot of routing is very, very important for this type of format, for sure. And there's an extra thing here. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's Kale hanging out right next to the Grace here in the DLC. He's got a shop called what I like to consider Buffables, which you can buy a bunch of things to strengthen your character. So it gets you physic tiers, gets you spells to make your character stronger, gets you anything that you need to make sure that your character is as strong as possible going into the DLC. And each player starts also with 160,000 runes. Now it looks like that the fog wall is dropping here, and now the players are going to go ahead and see what their first objectives are. Team GrandPooBear and Lil Aggie. We can call them Grand Aggie. That could work.
The green team.
They don't have any team names.
Colors,
looks like
green and red.
there is green and red. That is true. Yeah, Team V Sweat versus Team Poo. I guess that we could do that too.
Sure.
So Sweat and Ada for red, GrandPooBear and Aggie green. Looks like the two teams here are considering talismans, as they're going to be going for Blade of Mercy here. You can see on V Sweat and Pooh Bear's gameplay, going to be going through these ruins and opening up that door. There's a Blade of Mercy talisman here. Probably one of the best talismans actually in the game. When you stagger an enemy and then riposte them, you get 20% more damage for 30 seconds, I believe. So it's really, really good, but also there is a talisman square. So they're collecting that and rushing for that square.
Yep, this is definitely known as one of those faster squares, and obviously Pooh and Swed are competing for it. Swed is showing himself to be a little bit faster here, but he's choosing to light that Grace, which that's definitely a little slower. And Pooh is not doing the same thing. You can see him running all the way out next to the next Grace that he's going through the 3 paths cross, and V-Swed choosing to target the backhand blades next. He's making these like efficiency decisions to pick up things that he wants later, but it's going to make him slower on talismans, which, as we can see, Pooh might be able to capitalize on that and steal away that square that we see in the column 6, row 5.
That's so crazy to hear column 6, row 5. But yeah, that's it's definitely there. If it's bottom right for anyone that's may have a hard time looking at it, it's a bit bottom right. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think from V-Sweat's perspective, going for some Graces is a good idea, as it is a 6x6 board. So yeah, rushing things obviously is a good idea, but also with this being a bigger board, kind of grabbing Graces for more of the long game and having more map presence makes sense as well, in case you have to move around a lot more later on in the match and be like, okay, you know, I need to go to Scorched Ruins really quickly for XYZ. I have that Grace already. I don't have to travel all the way back again because I rushed some squares earlier on and just skipped over some Graces to get that square. And we're seeing a lot of teams also, by the way, reading the crosses. Because that is visit 5 Mikla crosses. You have to read the text that is at the crosses here. Gives you a lot of nice map progression, gives you Skidoo fragments. If you don't know what Skidoo fragments are, again, those are things that buff your character a little bit more in the Elden Ring DLC. They increase your attack and also your defenses, and also gives you a lot of map progression for going for those crosses. So Aggie and Ada are both going for those crosses, going for a thing called Tiolier skip here right now. Both of them doing it first try, so fantastic job to them. And going straight for Foot Reprimand. This is the fastest way actually to get to Skidoo Altus, which is where the Highland crosses and a lot of the NPCs are hanging out there that you meet early on in the game. So you don't have to actually fight Rolana to get to this area. You can just skip past Rolana and take the Spirit Spring instead, to save a lot of time. That's what these 2 players are going for.
Yeah, and this is something that literally every player is going to do, because it's just the fastest way to gain access to the rest of the map.
Way faster,
exactly. And as you mentioned, they are targeting that Mikla crosses square, and you touched on this idea of map progression, which, as you can imagine, you kind of need to go places to actually accomplish these objectives. So if you can accomplish an objective while going places, that ends up being really, really valuable. And Mikla crosses is an excellent example of that, because obviously you got to go all around the map to get all these different crosses. You can light Graces while you're doing it, and gain and make it so that accomplishing your later objectives is a whole lot faster.
Yeah, I would say for a lot of people at home that are watching bingo for the first time, it can seem like a lot to take in as you have like a huge board in your face and like there's everyone doing something at the exact same time. But pretty much I would suggest to look at this as in the same way of like chess, where you're doing a lot of things at the same time. You're really trying to take your time to read the board and seeing what the other player could be doing. You got to think a little bit ahead, pretty much, and be like, okay, depending on what you see on the board, as soon as like people mark squares, be like, okay, this is what they're possibly planning for. And now we can either stop them from doing that and kind of counter and take some squares away to ruin their progression, or we do our own thing and pressure the enemy team by progressing our own like squares and our own lines. So there's a lot of like mind gaming. There's a lot of reading into the board. There's a lot of different skills that are needed to play bingo, and that's why this makes this like really, really interesting because of the lockout, because of blocking each other out. So yeah, there's a lot of tactics behind this, which makes this really, really fun to watch. It just takes a little bit to get accustomed to, you know, the playing.
Yes. I believe we're about to watch Aggie claim his 5th Mick Lacrosse. Aggie and Adef are both racing for this square. And I believe we're about to watch Pooh and Swed go for this Flame Drake Talisman +3 in the bottom of Fort of Reprimand. And as we can see, Aggie got his 5th cross right there. He won that square over Adef. And Wed is looking to maybe be ahead on this Talisman square. It's very close between Pooh and Swed here. They both just need to climb over these cages and open this chest, and it's super close.
Oh, I think Swed does get this by like 2 or 3 seconds. There it is.
He does.
Swed marks that. Literally 2 or 3 second difference there. The cool part here is for Pooh and Swed, since they're both in the same room, they can just trash talk right over each other, over that screen. Be like, yeah, I got that. That's right. You know, 2-3 seconds. That's me. Sadly, Pooh would have actually had that, but the soldiers were attacking him before the little parkour section of the cages, which made that a little bit unfortunate for him. I think he would have gotten that before Swed, but that's what happens, you know. Sometimes things happen where you're like, oh, I'm on pace, and then something just, even just stumbling over a rock will sometimes cost you a square.
Yep.
Which makes this really, really intense. There it is, Cell Great Katana now from Aggie as well. So now Team Green has 2 squares compared to Team Red's 1 square, and already blocking out that row 5. The other thing here, which is really, really interesting for the players, is on the bingo board themselves, they have a log, and they can actually see who's marking which square. So Team Red can see that Aggie has marked Mick Lacrosses and selling the Great Katana at +0, so that they can kind of already kind of think ahead and be like, okay, Aggie's been doing a lot of rushing at this point. That means that most likely he's not set up at all with a weapon. So most likely now Pooh is going to try and start doing some of the more killing type squares while Aggie gets set up with his stuff. It's kind of like this swapping out between the 2 players on your team, being like, okay, I'm going to go progress something while you get some squares done. And once you got your squares done, you go progress your own character while I get some squares done. You kind of do this back and forth, which is a nice flow that you can do when doing team bingo.
And from personal experience, I've found team bingo to be quite the mess. There is so much going on. It's so hard to keep track of. But yeah. Absolutely what you're touching on. That's not to say that it's impossible to keep track of it, but like it's overwhelming for sure. There's a lot of information being thrown around all the time, and it's really hard to be like, okay, what exactly is being planned right now? Because if you're playing, like, imagine playing chess, but it's 2 people that you're playing against, and you have another person on your team, and you're trying to like coordinate with your teammate what the 2 other people are thinking instead of just one person thinking. And it can get muddled so quickly. I'm like, oh, I think they're doing this. Nah, I think they're doing that instead. And then it's like, okay, well, how about we just guess and just throw darts at a board? And that's pretty much like what early game is for team bingo. Is like just throw things, just see what happens. You know, just try that one, try this one. Yep. And I'm trying to figure out what squares these players are going to be targeting next. We see both Aggie and Swed developing their map, getting access into Shadow Altis and picking up the Skidoo fragments. We see Adef pushing out towards Bellarat, which is probably for the more armor sets. That is a diagonal square in the column 2, row 5. Adef is going to be able to be a terrible therapist here and tell Moore that he should just be sad forever, and it forever won't last too long for Moore. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, hey, if you die sad, I think that is forever. But yeah, that's going to be possibly a Moore's armor set, and that's going to be nice for Team Red having a possibly second square here. Could we get a possible listen in here on Aggie as he's fighting Dane? That'd be pretty cool. Dane being one of the earlier menaces for the bingo players, because Dane actually can one-shot players with his nice palm blast.
Yeah,
especially early on.
Palm Blast is a very scary move, and this is progressing that boss with hand-to-hand only square. We can see in the top left, Dane drop a hand-to-hand weapon, and he's also an NPC boss, which is in the column 2 row 4. So Aggie also getting that synergistic play going. I don't believe this is pushing anything else here, though.
It might be smart to do Blood Fiend's Arm +0 potentially.
Yeah, just getting that set up. NPC bosses will be very nice here. Trying to start working towards that. I am expecting
backhand blades only. Wow, I missed that square. That one's really powerful.
Oh yeah, there we go. So Aggie claiming a third square for Team Green already. Pooh getting set up here with the Great Katana, by the way, a very big fan favorite slash player favorite, as it's very safe. It's got a lot of range. Obviously, it's a very long sword, pretty much way taller actually than the player, but also has innate bleed on it. So you just automatically do bleed damage when you attack things. And in this case, Pooh also has an affinity on his Great Katana, which is the lightning. Because lightning on the Great Katana is really strong. Because the more you level Dex, the stronger the lightning gets, and it actually outperforms. Yeah, and the physical. Yeah, and it outperforms actually the frost that you can put on your katana instead here. So going for what seems to be possibly invaders. Team Red here, however, did claim Moore's armor set now, so we have a 3-2, 1 square lead right now for Team Green.
Yep. And as you mentioned, they claimed the Moore's armor set. Adef told Moore to be sad, and Moore ended up being pretty sad and went to go hug his bug friend and give up his armor set. And now we can see Adef is targeting an NPC invader. This is not an NPC boss. This does not contribute to the column 2 row 4 square. However, Quayline can be good for giving an Iris of Occultation. That's a square that's on this board. It can be good for invaders. It can be good for killing Quayline and Bellarat, but I'm not seeing...
Who here dying to Quayline, good old Bob Cut Andy. And Adef here actually holding on to that fight, though. I think, yeah, they're both kind of racing on that. Yep. However, Adef is going to get this fight first. He does have cold on it rather than lightning, and I think that might have helped out. As I would personally say, if you have cold on your weapon, it does help out a little bit more earlier on. And then once you get into the later game, lightning actually is more powerful than cold. But if you don't have a lot of levels, you don't have a lot of Skidoo fragments, cold definitely just carries a little bit harder there. So GG's to Adef there, though, getting that Quayline kill. Pooh going all the way back now. Going to be going for that Quayline fight one more time. Well, Aggie here on the bottom left is going to go for Ancient Dragon Man. Sorry, go ahead.
There is something interesting going on here. Because of the fact that Adef showed Moore armor set, Pooh could be thinking that Adef killed the Moore invader, which is something that you can do in order to get that armor set. But that's not what Adef did. Adef instead told Moore to be sad, which means he doesn't get the invader kill. He instead just gets the armor set. But it's sort of like Adef can kind of lie here. He can lead on that he has 2 NPC invaders dead, meaning both Moore and Quayline, whereas Pooh knows that currently he doesn't have Quayline dead, and he also doesn't have Moore dead quite yet. So Pooh, in his brain, could be thinking, oh, I'm really behind on this invaders where I shouldn't continue to pursue this. However, as we can see, Pooh's still pushing out invaders, which could definitely work out well for him, and Adef lie may not end up working out too well for him here.
Yeah, kind of calling the bluff here. We have Adef now fighting the Golden Hippopotamus. You know, I do wonder, like, do you think these are like work for hire hippos? Like you kind of just like call an agency and be like, hey, I need a guardian hippo for a little bit to watch the front while I go out of town.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Mesmer's a little bit too introverted for that. I don't think he likes people.
Oh, he just sends a guy. Yeah, he just sends a guy.
Right.
He's one of the fire knights. Be like, hey, get me a hippo. I want to hang out in my dark chambers for a hot minute. I've been doing enough impaling for the couple of years here. Let me just hang out, get a hippo to watch the front lines. There we have it, though. Bloodfiend's arm going to be marked for Team Red now. So 3 for 3, currently tied on squares.
Yep, and as we can see, the bingo threats that have been getting made are kind of getting canceled out. Green team shows that column 3, and then it gets blocked by Bloodfiend's arm. Shows the column or the row 2, and it gets blocked by Bloodfiend's arm. At row 5, and as we can see, there's both red and green squares on there. So there's no real tangible bingo threats developing quite yet. And just as a reminder, I don't think we've mentioned this quite yet. A row of 6, a column of 6, or a diagonal of 6, all for one team is a win. So if one of the teams gets 5 on a row or 5 on a column or 5 on a diagonal, that 6th and final square needs to be claimed by the other team in order for that team to have a chance to win.
And there's Team Red claiming that Golden Hippo. GG's to Ada, first try on the Golden Hippo. Golden Hippo can be kind of a wall sometimes, especially early on, as there are some moves in phase 2. For some reason, it's not just a hippo, it's a porcupine. And not just that, it's a porcupine, hippo, and rhinoceros at the same time. And Ada definitely taking care of that boss here. Getting past it first try, marking that square, and then thinking about going through to Shadowkeep, but actually pivoting off here for just a moment. Killing Golden Hippo is a great thing early on because it gives you a lot of money. It gives you, I think, 200,000 runes, and it gives you 2 Skidoo fragments, which allows you to at least level once your Skidoo level, which again strengthens your character and increases its defenses here. And that's just going to be overall useful for the long game and for just continuing into bingo, making a lot of other things easier by dealing more damage and being able to take more damage. Swed here working on bell bearings now, going for a bit of a double dipping here, going for invaders while also going for bell bearings.
This is a bit of an odd choice. I don't think Swed means to be fighting invaders because Pooh has already killed 2 invaders, so this is... Oh, sorry, no, I'm misspeaking. Swed and Pooh.
I was about to say, yeah, he doesn't know.
yeah. My bad.
Nah, you're good. No worries. I think this actually might be Pooh now going for Ancient Dragonman Invader, as he is currently near Egon.
This will be
getting a good old voice line. By the way, a bit of a shame, if I may say so. If you have voted for the Game Awards, Egon was not on the voice actor list for nominations, which is ridiculous. I feel like Egon deserved to be on there, but hey, you know what? Game Awards.
Curse you, Bale.
Politics. Yeah, kind of a shame. But yeah, possibly here an Ancient Dragon Man Invader here for Pooh. That's going to be, I think, his 3rd Invader then. So he's going to mark that square before anybody else, which is going to be huge for Team Green, as Team Red currently is 1 square ahead now. Looks like that, Ag is going to be finishing out NPC bosses, going for Black Jail Knight with backhand blades, which is a little scary. It looks like he's doing a good job.
Yeah, that is his 3rd NPC boss, I believe, and Pooh is on his 3rd unique NPC invader. This is the easiest invader of all of them, but not when a bird's there to mess you up.
Yeah, Pooh being a little bit of a bird feed here, getting pecked in the head as Ancient Dragonman then fades away. Going to be going to try and do that invader one more time. But this might be, at least 1 square for Team Red. For Team Green. Once Aggie gets this kill on the solitary, the Knight of the Solitary Jail. They changed his name, and I keep forgetting that they did. I don't even know why. I don't think there was any reasoning. There just was a patch that was like, name changed. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, who knows? Miyazaki works in mysterious ways, and now we see Pooh being a little bit more careful, taking out the birds so that they can't mess him up. But importantly, Adef is representing a huge map advantage lead here. He is the only one with Shadowkeep access, and as we see, he is currently climbing up Shadowkeep. This is going to give him access to things like Mesmer, things like Gaius, a whole backside. Well, not technically backside of Shadowkeep, but if he wants to do the skip, because he did go through the front side of Shadowkeep, if he wants to do the skip, he can technically get to Gaius and Hinterland's area. Otherwise, this is advantage for Rao and Mesmer.
And we have Team Green claiming another square, currently 5-4, so they're currently at 1 square ahead now. As you can see, like, this turns into like a huge back and forth, like we mentioned. This turns into like a bit of a chess match again, with like those mind games of like, okay, well, we're gonna go for this, okay, you're gonna go for that, okay, we're gonna go for this, until at some point you're gonna have it to where both teams kind of have to do the same thing, and that's where sniping happens. That's where, you know, upsets happen. That's where the fun actually like starts to really get interesting. Interesting fun, apparently. I don't know why I said interesting. It gets fun, man. It gets very fun watching players trying to rush for the same things, and especially if it's squares that are like way more difficult. For example, there's like Senesax. That's going to be really interesting, as that's probably one of the, I would say, worst bosses in the game. And you're probably wondering, why is Ancient Dragon Senesax the worst boss in the game? Imagine a lightning dragon where lightning happens all the time, and you have pretty much no time to hit it, and then when you do hit it, you get punished for hitting it. And then on top of that, it's just a bunch of AoE lightning fields happening, so you're more dodging than fighting the boss. It's a rough one. It's a rough one. We'll see probably at some point, but yeah.
I mean, if we do see Senesax, it is going to be late. These players do not want to do it. That square sucks. But I do think we maybe have a potential diagonal bingo getting built by Team Red here, from the bottom left to the top right. We can see Adaf targeting Mesmer right here, and V-Swed is developing this southern half of the map. And the southern half of the map works for demi-human Mariga, it works for the rolling giant lightning ram, and it even pushes out perfume bottles, and dragon bosses are all concentrated in Jagged Peak. That's where like all the dragons are, right? So if we see Adaf win this Mesmer square, and then V-Swed is able to win a couple of these Jagged Peak / southern map area squares on this diagonal, we could see a real problem start to get developed for Green Team here.
Oh, 100%. Keep an eye on Adaf here, as he does do Mesmer first try. This is a bit of a tougher fight, but it is a very, very fun fight. This is probably one of the best bosses that they've designed, I think, in quite a while. Overall, a super fair fight, very strong boss fight, and it's just very beautiful, to be honest. Like, he's got really cool attacks, and some really nice dodges coming out here from Adaf. Going to be getting that riposte here, and possibly almost a phase 2. Yeah, gets that bleed proc there. Gonna go for a charge dart 2. Some nice dodges. Phase 2 is actually easier here as well, which is funny. When I first fought this,
with cold.
Yeah. When I first fought this in my first playthrough, I was like, dude, phase 2, I do not know what the heck is happening. This is terrible. Snakes everywhere. I'm dying. But once you get to like learn it, it's actually very, very straightforward. Really nice fight here from Adaf. Should be getting the phase 2 explosion attack. There it is. So all the snakes are coming out now. Really freaking cool attack. Very nice dodges here from Adaf. Dodges everything. Makes sure to get some attacks in to try and get another stagger. For anyone that hasn't played Elden Ring, by the way, when I say stagger, that means that the boss like idles for a quick moment, and then you can go for like a really strong attack and like punish them for constantly dealing damage to them. And it's just a very powerful attack they can do from time to time.
And while Adaf is finishing out that Mesmer kill, we see Aggie going for the kill the rolling giant lightning ram square. Swed is in close. He's close to that, but he's choosing to target Mariga first instead of rolling giant lightning ram, which is a little bit unlucky on his part, but both teams are going to end up claiming a square. It is, however, going to shut down that diagonal bingo idea. Pooh, on the other hand, is going for the clear 2 forges square, which also has synergy with the kill a boss with throwing attacks only, which is another square on this board.
There we have it. Adaf with a very nice Mesmer does get that kill. Going to mark that.
Oh, Aggie dies.
Yeah, this might have Aggie, however, fully commit to that lightning ram, because now he sees like, oh yeah, they are working towards that diagonal, as you mentioned, that bottom left to top right. He's like, okay, you know, I died, but I'm gonna keep committing to that. Normally, if you die to a square, a lot of players are like, okay, I died, let me go do something else because I might have just wasted my time. But in this case, if you get like a confirmation of like, hey, they just marked a square that is already working towards what I thought they were working towards, Let me try again. Let me block it out again. Oh, and
I
Pooh
think
dying
Green Team is setting up a row 4 bingo. Oh, Pooh crashed. That's not good. They're trying to set up a row 4 bingo. Aggie targeting Rolling Giant Lightning Ram. Pooh is trying to do a skip to get to Moonrathil, Carrion Knight. And then the 3 remaining squares on that row 4 are all kind of awful to do. Use a transformation takes a really long time to get to. Throwing attacks only is not fun, and we know that Pooh has a huge advantage on it. And clearing 2 catacombs takes super long. So
it does,
if Aggie wins this Rolling Giant Lightning Ram square, and Pooh's able to get back into the game and clean up Moonrathil, this could definitely flip the script here, and we could go from a red team diagonal bingo threat to a green team row 4 bingo threat immediately. But Adef
has to get that. Oh,
Adef's going Moonrathil, or he's, maybe not Moonrathil. He's thinking about it.
He just likes the scenery. He's just hanging out. You know, life, man.
Yeah.
No, he is going for
it. Looks like Moonrathil, which means Pooh might be getting sniped on this. Which, as we can see, Aggie wins the Rolling Giant Lightning Ram. That shuts down the diagonal bingo threat and pushes that row 4 idea. But Adef is ahead on blocking Moonrathil here.
Yeah, but Moonrathil can be a bit of a meanie.
He can.
The counterpart of Moongrim. Apparently, like Moongrim's sister or something like that is Moonrathil. And she's protecting the castle here with Rolana behind it. And we'll see how this fight goes, as she does have a colossal sword. The Moonrathil sword can hit like a truck, especially if you don't have any armor on, and especially if you don't have any Skidoo fragments. Anything in the DLC, if you don't have any Skidoo fragments, will deal a lot of damage. But at this point, Adef does have quite a few of those, so he should be fine here. Does take 1 hit, but already has the Frost proc on Moonrathil, so he should be good to go here. Maybe a Bleed proc very soon as well. And looks like that Aggie now is going potentially...
not Moonrathil.
For Mute Sword Key? Is there... No, there's no progress discussed. No, I think he actually is. He's taking the long way, though.
Maybe Aggie just doesn't know the skip here.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Moonrathil marked here from Team Red, and also a Hanging Pot Bell Bearings from V-Sweat here.
Yep.
So Team Red now running away with 2 square lead versus Team Green. Very huge for Team Red.
Important to note on this row 6, GrandPooBear already has 1 of 2 forges completed, so that would not be an awful block for them to go for. And on this column 1, which red team is obviously still pushing, I can't really be sure which one green team is ahead on at all. I mean, boss hand-to-hand only. I believe Aggie has Dane dead, so that could maybe be a block consideration. That also pushes this diagonal idea. But as for what the players are choosing to do right now, we see V-Swed pushing out towards Deathrite Bird, and Lamenter's Jail is also over here, which could work for the use a transformation square. Lamenter does give an item that does transform. Is Deathrite Bird on this? Yes, Deathrite Bird is in that column 1, so maybe we're seeing red team push this column 1 idea by choosing to go for this. Adef is pushing for Hefty Pots currently, which is in that row 3, column 5. Maybe not pushing it, but just collecting as he develops this backside Shadow Keep progress. We see Aggie doing a very similar idea, collecting the Hefty Pots in the same exact place right now. GrandPooBear is all the way into the backside of Shadow Keep. And then this access is important for things like Matir, Amir, Gaius. This is an easier way to get to Gaius or Sunflower, which all can be very important squares. On this board, there is both Give an Iris of Grace and Give an Iris of Occultation, which is also a square that you need Church District, which is where GrandPooBear is. You need access to that in order to complete both of those squares.
And obviously, it's really hard to like see all of this, especially while you're playing. You know, because you're constantly focusing on gameplay, so then trying to read the board while you're doing this is a skill of its own, being like, okay, well, they could do this now. You know, obviously, we're also seeing every single perspective here, while the players obviously don't see the enemy team's perspective, or at least I hope they aren't. And that just makes it obviously way harder to make the right calls, making sure that they're covering everything. And in this case, technically, Aggie could have been like, "Hey, I got Rolling Giant Lightning Ram, which is near the Death Bird, and then V-Sweat got Demi-Human Marigot, which means that should have been a Death Bird race because they both know now that they have access to this like lower region of the DLC." But Aggie not really contesting that Death Bird here. Backhand Blades with Lightning Infusion, actually from V-Sweat. Normally you want to go Holy here because it is a Death Bird. Holy damage does do way more in this case. He could have swapped that to Grace, but maybe he thinks this is a race. Maybe he's like, okay, you know what? Aggie already showed Giant Lightning Ram. I went for Demi-Human. Maybe we're both racing now for Demi-Human. So he just wants to rush that, doesn't want to sit down and change the affinity, waste a little bit of time doing that. Good fight so far, already past the phase 2 explosion marker, and doing a really good fight here. Also keeping the Death Bird, by the way, outside of the graveyard, as there are grave birds that killed Pooh Bear before, are around here as well. They kind of like just hang out on those statues, and if you get too close, they do drop down and they try to peck at you the whole time as well. So it makes the fight way harder if you don't keep this Death Bird in like a small pocket area.
Yes, this fight, I know these professional Elden Ring gamers always make this look so easy, but this Deathrite Bird fight in particular is very difficult and very annoying. So Swed doing this well, this easily, especially without the help of Holy, is very impressive.
Yeah, 100%. And Aggie here, by the way, also working on dragons now. So kind of looking at the 3 dragon squares. There it is, though. Another square for Team Red, duping a Remembrance because Adif did kill Mesmer. He can dupe that Remembrance that he got from Mesmer. 3-square lead now for Team Red, doing very well. And they can start working towards maybe that column 5. They already have Golden Hippo. They already have dupe a Remembrance. Adif has been working on Hefty Pots. You can start working slowly towards that line there and try to pressure Team Green into stopping you again.
We do see Aggie is currently working on dragon bosses, so Team Green is going to have a lead on that square in the column 5. But that's no guarantee that Aggie finishes it, certainly.
I could have campaigned harder myself, honestly.
So much happening on each screen here. It looks like that Pooh might be working towards Gaius. Going for a little shadow keep skip here. Has to make sure that he doesn't drop down, trying to hug the wall. There we go, very nice.
And this Gaius play is for Golden Braid. Acquire the Golden Braid in the row 6. I don't think... Oh, there's Tree Sentinel Duo on this board as well in row 1, column 2. But that's still only 2 squares, which is why it's taken so long to develop to this section of the map. Usually, Gaius ends up being pretty valuable, but on this specific board, it doesn't really look that way.
I mean, I don't know. There is hand-to-hand Gaius could be a thing. I've been saying that for 2 months straight, and I'll say it again. It is an option. But yeah, we'll see what Pooh has planned here as he's currently going down the elevator. Aggie here going for Tilia skip one more time. I think going for Chief Bloodfiend now, which is going to be on row 5, column 3. Going to go for a bit of a free square, but does die to gravity here, though. Does not get the Tilia skip.
Yeah, this skip is a little finicky. Sometimes the way that fall damage works in Elden Ring is that it goes based off of your last safe position, where you jump from and where you land, and then it calculates the difference between those. It doesn't matter if you double jump, it doesn't matter how long you're in the air. However, sometimes it doesn't realize that you've landed, and you'll be able to walk around and jump and do all the normal things, but the game won't realize that you've landed in your last safe position, and then what happened to Aggie ends up happening, and you end up dying to fall damage, even though you definitely shouldn't.
And I just realized V-Sweat died a second time now to the Death Bird. He just had to fight it again and got immediately obliterated by the star explosion that the Death Bird does. So there's this thing, once the Death Bird reaches around its half health mark, it will go ahead and do this huge explosion in the shape of a star, and these like frost lines will pop out. And normally, I would say some players disagree with me on this, but I'm still saying this. It's in the shape of the star, and it's pointing north, so you want to run south. And if you look at, there's like a little compass on the top of the screen there. So if you run south, you most likely will dodge that little explosion, star explosion. In this case, however, Viswa does get caught by it and gets immediately obliterated, as he also has no armor on. As we mentioned, is a little necessary sometimes when you do these fights. But there's a different strat here, a different argument of like not wearing armor. There is a talisman actually that if you have the Blue Dancer talisman equipped, the less you weigh as a character, the more damage, physical damage you can do. So some players opting out to be more of a glass cannon type build by being like, you know what, I'm going to opt out on wearing any armor whatsoever. I'm going to make my character as light as possible, and that way I can deal a lot more damage, but also I can explode any moment.
Yes, and we saw some of the most successful players from Season 4 employing this strategy. It's obviously high risk, high reward. It requires quite a bit of skill. But just to keep us updated with what everyone is currently going for here, Pooh, targeting Tree Sentinel Duo and the Golden Braid. He's about to get that Golden Braid talisman. Aggie, currently going for that Chief Bloodfiend. He's also currently in this cave to pick up the two-headed turtle talisman. This causes you to regenerate stamina faster. This is not for any square on the board. This is just because he thinks it's going to help in his combat. V-Swed obviously still targeting this Deathrite Bird, getting very close to killing it, and Adef this whole time has been developing towards give an Iris of Occultation. He killed both the Invader Quelline in the Church in Scadu Altus and the Invader Quelline in Bellarat, and now he's headed to backside Shadowkeep. He picked up the Iris of Occultation from Fort of Reprimand, from the basement of Fort of Reprimand, and now he's heading to backside Shadowkeep, where he's going to drop down, talk to Quelline, give him this Iris, and then that will leave Iris of Grace open for Swed to claim, or one of the members of Green Team to claim. Iris of Grace is a little bit easier to get, I think, than Iris of Occultation. It happens a little bit more naturally, although I'll be honest, both of them don't require a whole lot of time commitment. So who claimed that Golden Braid square, and now is currently fighting Tree Sentinel Duo. Red is into Bane now, with which is going to be developing backhand, kill a boss with hand-to-hand only. And if Swed ends up winning that square, we're looking at a very relevant column one idea here, with acquire the full Gravebird armor set and acquire 2 painting rewards being the only 2 remaining blocks. Those squares suck to do.
It's interesting. I think from a new viewer's perspective for Bingo, they're hearing a lot of this square sucks and this square sucks, and some of these squares suck too, and this one's pretty rough. It's just like, is this supposed to be fun? It's like, yeah. It's supposed to be like, the difficulty is something that is needed at the very least. Because if everything's easy, then it's like really hard to play around. And it also makes more, obviously, more entertaining to watch. We have Chief Bloodfiend here for Aggie, by the way. We have Tree Sentinel Duos here for Pooh, both of them doing boss fights. Chief Bloodfiend being a little bit of a sleeper boss. I think some people really underestimate Chief Bloodfiend. He can hit pretty intensely, and is a little bit unpredictable. It's just a bit of a weird boss. As you can see, Aggie taking a lot of damage here, trying to make sure that he doesn't die, has to heal up. But Team Red did claim just now also Iris of Occultation, so they have 4 squares now ahead of Team Green. And I believe 19 would be majority here, so as soon as they get 8 more squares for Team Red, they win. So right now, Team Red looking to be in a very strong position as Team Green's trying to catch up while trying to get some of these faster squares.
Yep, and the reason why they would win on majority is because they've blocked all of Green's potential bingos. Aggie dies super late.
Yep. Aggie got coughed on by bronchitis and just fades away.
I think this is definitely one of those situations where these professional Elden Ring gamers that are truly, genuinely incredible at this game feel the need to practice all the mainline super difficult stuff like the Mesmers and the Consort Radons and the Ramanas of the world, and never really have much of a reason to come into this random cave and truly practice Chief Bloodfiend for hours and hours until you know their moveset in and out.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. I feel like I've said this before with like bingo is like any other sport that people watch, like football or baseball. like the viewers get into it so much where they're like, oh, I could have done that. Why don't they just do this? Why don't they just do that? You know, it's the same with like football where it's like, oh, why don't you just throw the pass, dude? It's like, okay, how about you throw the pass? How about you catch that ball? Like sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes things happen, you know, it gets a little crazy. Sometimes you get in your head, you know, there's a lot that always goes on. And it's very tricky, but these players put a lot of practice into a lot of these squares and try to find the most optimal way to go about these things. And that's like the
we're
really,
about
really
to see
cool
a really interesting play here, Domo.
Okay, go for it.
V-Swed got the hand-to-hand only, got Dane's hand-to-hand weapon, went to upgrade it, and now he's going to Lamenter's Jail. And we've seen that hand-to-hand is pretty all right on Lamenter. So Lamenter, in this jail, he's going to be able to collect a perfume bottle. He's going to be able to do the boss that gives him a transformation. And he's going to be able to claim the boss hand-to-hand only square. Unless GrandPooBear or Aggie decides to target hand-to-hand only somewhat soon here. And to be honest, I'm surprised that neither member of Team Green are targeting that square quite yet. Because I'm looking at that column 1 and I'm thinking, that looks scary. But both members of Team Green don't seem to agree, at least not yet.
Oh, we do have hand-to-hand actually here coming out for Aggie. He does have that hand-to-hand equipped now, and I think going for Demi-Human Mariga, which is definitely a way faster fight than Lamenter. So most likely that will be a snipe and a possible block here for Team Green if he does get there in time, and if it goes as smoothly as he wants it to. But it could be for V-Sweat if he does have the right stats for it. This could be just a bit of a race for both players. Keep an eye on top right, bottom left.
Yep. Hand-to-hand only, going to be a very, very important square here, obviously. Now, I am going to need your help here a little bit, Domo. I was on the competing end of when Lamenter was getting done hand-to-hand only. That was Pooh's choice, and I was playing against him, so I don't know exactly what you're supposed to do in order to make hand-to-hand only look good on Lamenter.
Yeah, so the really cool thing with hand-to-hand, as we mentioned with that Dane fight that Aggie did earlier on, that Palm Blast is very powerful for Dane, and it one-shots a lot of players. But the cool thing is, obviously, you get hand-to-hand as a reward for beating Dane. And so then you get access to that Palm Blast as well. And that Palm Blast has a lot of damage behind it, and it has a huge AoE field that pushes out. And so, in this case, Lamenter, what Lamenter does is create a bunch of copies of himself attack you. So what you do is you charge up that Palm Blast. You can take out 3 or 4 copies of Lamenter with one Palm Blast and then try and deal a lot of damage to Lamenter right afterwards. That way you take out a lot of risk of that fight. However, Aggie is already on Demi-Human Mariga with that hand-to-hand, trying to go ahead and do some kicks and punches. Has to be careful here, though, taking a lot of damage from the other enemies that are near Demi-Human. They're kind of pissed off that he's punching their queen. So
even though Demi-Human Queen is pretty weak, obviously it's a bit of a mess when there's this much stuff all around you. A lot of the players, when they go to kill this boss, usually have a very high level weapon, and it means that they're able to burn down the boss before the ads cause problems. But if you're not in that kind of situation and you do have to do the boss hand-to-hand only, it can definitely turn a little bit problematic.
Aggie again taking a lot of damage here. Has to
in
back
Lamenter's
off.
fight now.
Lightning hand-to-hand. That's kind of cool.
But Aggie has it.
Yeah.
Now, Swed is still going to finish this Lamenter fight. He doesn't have to use hand-to-hand to finish it, but he's still going to finish it in order to get that transformation square.
He's going straight for the correct Lamenter here, getting enough damage in where he can stagger the Lamenter and get rid of all of the copies, which is going to make this fight very, very easy. It's a lot of damage, as you can see, as every single hit does micro-stagger Lamenter here. So this is a really, really good fight for Spud. Almost one cycles Lamenter, actually, which is very, very quick.
And the way that Swed can tell which one is the right one is after you've hit an enemy enough times, they start, like, bleeding. Not like the status effect bleeding, but they literally start getting covered in red.
They show battle wounds,
exactly. So, as long as Swed hits him enough the first time around, the real one will be very, very red, and it'll be easy to identify which one is which. And now we can see Swed is going to use this item he just got from Lamenter. This is a transformation whenever he figures out how to get to it. And that's going to allow him to claim one more square, get Team Red one square closer to that 19 square break point. If they aren't going to win off of a bingo in column 5, which I don't think that's likely. This is looking like a majority game to me at this point.
Oh, 100%. But as we mentioned, 19 would be a majority here. Team Red now 13 squares to 9, has 4 square lead. They only need 6 more, and they're good to go. And there's some squares left over that are pretty tough. Tree Sentinel Duo here still being worked on by Pooh. Going for a nice stack. Are going to get that first kill on Tree Sentinel. Maybe this is second Tree Sentinel, actually. And should be able to mark that square now.
Yes.
Yep, there it is.
Perfect.
Very, very nice. So now the question is, what is Team Green working on while Team Red has this really strong lead of 3 squares? I think Aggie right now, after getting hand-to-hand, is currently he upgraded the round table and is grabbing the Dragon Hunter's Katana. So I think he might be working on the last couple of dragons to get that last square. Row 2, column 5 has that 3 dragon square.
Oh, I do want to point out another interesting, like, sort of lie that could be getting told here. V-Swed marked this use a transformation square, which Lamenter is obviously an option to do use a transformation, but the other option is a painting reward all the way up in Jagged Peak, at the top of Jagged Peak past Senesax. And so marking that use a transformation square could tell Team Green that, oh, we're already behind on paintings, let's not push for that, even though that's definitely not the case. As we can see, V-Swed went for Lamenter rather than pushing for those paintings. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be what Team Green is thinking. They could think it doesn't make sense to push paintings, we're already behind on it.
Right. No, exactly. I would agree here. Yeah, Aggie working here over on the dragons. Maybe doing a Senesax afterwards as his 3rd dragon. Might be thinking of the double up here, thinking, okay, well, hold on. If I do 3 dragons and I already have the Dragon Hunter's Katana, which allows me to do bonus damage to dragons, I'm going to take care of this Jagged Peak Drake here and the Jagged Peak Mountains. And then right afterwards, he can go for Senesax, which would be his 3rd dragon, and that way we can get 2 squares for 1 deal, pretty much. A good old 2 for 1 on a Wednesday.
Yep. I mean, we've seen this specific square combo exist on the board in the past, and Senesax, while it is efficient to go for that, it can be so scary to choose Senesax as your 3rd dragon, because honestly, killing 3 dragons is not super difficult, but killing 2 normal dragons in Senesax is really, really difficult. So it can end up backfiring quite hard if that's the choice you end up going for. But I'm not sure Team Green is in a safe enough position to be able to make, like, safe plays like that. I think they kind of have to be a little bit desperate.
And Pooh here, by the way, going for the... Oh, he does die to Dane with that discus throw, looking over and being like, you did not see anything. Don't look over at my screen. Going for the square of throwing, kill a boss with throwing attacks only, using that Smith Script shield with a discus hurl to throw those shields at Dane himself, which is a pretty good target to go for if you have the positioning for it. Now, what he could do is the same thing that Santa does, is get on the roof of those buildings and then throw the discus hurls from there to hit Dane. But, you know, that's a little bit of tricky parkour that you would have to do first. Gifts. Yeah, different kind. Yeah, exactly. Instead of throwing coal, he's throwing shields.
So let's stay updated on what all the players are going for here. Swed and Aggie, both targeting dragon bosses. However, Aggie has a huge lead on it. However, as we mentioned, if Aggie targets Senesax and Swed doesn't, Swed could end up getting 3 dragons before Aggie ends up finishing off Senesax as his 3rd dragon. GrandPooBear, as you mentioned, going for Dane. This is an easy boss to do throwing attacks on. And Adef is in the Bellarat jail to pick up 3 hefty cracked pots. This is the target that pick up 5 hefty cracked pot or hefty pots square in the column 5, row 3.
Yep, going to go ahead and just grab that extra square. They are Team V-Swed, or sorry, Team Red here now on 14, almost 15 squares now. So they're only close to 3 squares away from a majority win on this board. Team Green here now at 10 squares needs at least 8 squares to kind of make up for it, to go for a tie.
I believe
but right now
19. I think they're 4 off, Domo.
Well, yeah. No, I meant like 8, at least 8 to tie it, and then 9 to win for majority. Because weirdly enough, we don't have an odd number of squares.
Yep.
So a tie is possible in this case. Yeah, currently Team Red here now 5 squares ahead with that hefty pot square now being marked by Adolf.
Yep. And as we did mention, they're 4 squares off of just winning the game at this point. However, if they wanted to, they could technically win in 3 more squares if they got everything on that column 5, but that's probably not the smartest idea. I wouldn't expect them to go for that. V-Sweat, however, is on his 2nd dragon here, and Aggie is running past Senestacks. So is Aggie just going to hold on to this dragon priority? He hasn't shown that he has any dragons dead quite yet, so there's no reason that Team Red would stop going for dragons. Or is he going to light this grace, go back to Senestacks? If he does, I think this is going to be pretty close on the 3 dragon bosses square, because Senestacks is much, much harder than whatever dragon boss Sweat is going to end up choosing.
And Pooh dying again to Dane here, getting punched in the kidney and fades away. Going to be having to go back into that fight with Discus Hurl. Hopefully he does get that soon. That could block out, as you mentioned, that column 5. And yeah, Aggie going to go for that double up here, going to go for that Senestacks fight now that we mentioned all players kind of avoid. But if you're in a position of Team Green where you're like, hey, I have to get every square possible. If I can double up, I have to, especially in bingo when you're behind. You want to, it sounds weird, but when you're behind, you the more risky plays you have to make to get back in the lead, or at the very least make up for the deficit on the board. And that's exactly what Aggie's trying to do here now.
And he's trying to take advantage of this Dragon Hunter katana. The L2 has this ranged slash, which can hit Senestacks' head, which theoretically makes this fight a little bit easier, but it's still really, really difficult. Swed now has 2 dragon bosses dead. He's in round table hold, and he can choose to go for an easier dragon boss like the 2nd Ghost Flame Dragon or the duo Jagged Peak Drake fight. Obviously, Swed does not have to choose Senestacks and probably won't choose Senestacks. And this could, again, turn into a race for that 3 dragon square.
Mm-hmm. It looks like Adolf here are going to make his way towards Ancient Rao now. Maybe eyeballing the Gravebird armor set, as that is an Enir limb. We have to kill Romina, and he already killed Mesmer, so he already has a bit more of a priority towards that square compared to every other player currently playing bingo. And beyond that, however, there really isn't too much. And Pooh sadly dying again to Dane. Like I mentioned early on, Dane can be a huge menace. He's got some really, he's an NPC, so he's highly aggressive. Some bosses kind of idle around, they like pace and walk, trying to look really cool, looking at, you know, the player being like, hey, you know, I'm a strong boss. Dane and other NPCs don't care. They just keep running at you and they keep punching you as much as they can. And we're seeing that, you know, happening to Pooh in this case.
What is Swed going for here?
Who approved this boss?
I don't know what this is for. I can't figure it out.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. There's nothing that really you need Idrid for.
I thought he was maybe going to go for kill a boss with a perfume bottle only on Idrid because he's a boss that's on the easier side, but
yeah,
Swed's just killing him. Maybe for runes. Maybe he needs runes to upgrade a perfume bottle. Maybe that's his idea here. Maybe that's why he was in round table. And
Aggie, he just needs money. Yeah.
Aggie, as we can see, has died to Senestacks twice. Thank you, Aggie, for demonstrating to us and the rest of the audience that this boss does, in fact, suck to fight. It is
very
not an easy fight to do in the slightest.
Yeah, if we watch Aggie here one more time, you guys are going to see those electrical fields that I was talking about that this dragon does. Right now, in the very beginning, as soon as you enter, those lightning strikes come in, and not only does it strike, but then it strikes into an AoE field. So you immediately have to deal with AoE attacks from the get-go. And then we have here again another AoE lightning.
And that is
top of that.
every single lightning attack he does. Not just the lightning bolts, not just the big lightning shaft thing that he slams down. Every swipe, every hand slam, all of it. The tail swipe doesn't have lightning on it. The fire breath doesn't have lightning on it. That's why when we're fighting this boss, it feels so good to get him to do a fire attack or something like that. Or even like a bite attack, as we just saw there. Everything that involves lightning is just awful, as you can see. And Swed on his third dragon right now.
Slowly catching up here. Going to be possibly sniping away dragons as he was behind on them, but now maybe taking them away. However, this is the Cerulean Coast Ghost Flame Dragon, which can be a little annoying because this dragon, compared to the other Ghost Flame Dragons, spawns in some helpers. That could also be a little bit of a problem for Swed in this case. Adolf here is still working towards Ancient Rao, almost on his way or at Romina, and going to be getting access to Enir Elim now.
This does seem a little bit early for me to go for,
I would agree.
for Enir Elim, considering that there's only one square there. But perhaps Adolf is thinking, let's just go for the square that they're definitely not going to go for. It's just this 16, we're only 3 off. They do kind of have the luxury of making very safe plays due to how large of a lead they currently have.
And there are those helpers that I was talking about that the Ghost Flame Dragon is summoning, kind of causing a little bit of an issue here. The good thing, however, is that the dragon itself, its attacks will damage its own helpers, which is a little silly, but definitely is very helpful in this type of situation. Here's the thing, though. I guess I could kind of throw out for Adolf. Oh, Swed dying to the Ghost Flame Dragon.
Right, Aggie also died to Satisfax.
Now it's going to be very tight here for both players. For Adolf here, once you do actually burn the Ceiling Tree after killing Romina, is you do get access to another painting reward because you are recreating the tower, the Sacred Tower. So you can get that Sacred Tower painting instead of going for, you know, the shield or going for the transformation reward.
Yep.
Which would save you a lot of time.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, we have never seen this painting get claimed, the one that requires Enir Elim access. And the reason for that is because it takes forever to get. However, you're absolutely right. In Adolf's position here, instead of needing to go get Jagged Peak access and go get the painting from the basement of Shadowkeep, he can instead pick up this painting that's directly next to the start of the game and travel next to the Red Bear Mausoleum, and that'll be much faster. And then pick up his second painting that's all the way up past Prospect Town, and the claiming spot for it is next to Bellarat Jail, which again is much faster, assuming you have Enir Elim access.
And we do have Team Green marking Kill a Boss with throwing attacks only. GG's to Pooh there, getting that kill on Dane, and now moving his way towards Belurat. Aggie here still
is not finishing his dragon bosses here. I guess he gave up on it, having too much of an incident.
Well, I think he might be switching from Ghost Flame Dragon to the other Jagged Peak Drake instead.
What if he's going for Senesax? That could backfire horribly on him.
He could be going for that. However, Aggie is having a little bit of a situation here himself, taking a lot of damage, and potentially has to try and play a little bit more defensively, which gives Swed a lot of time to catch up too.
I would think the painting.
Yep. On Pooh's screen, I believe we're seeing him target Iris of Grace. Quelline, I believe.
Yeah, could be. Could definitely be for sure. I'm surprised Forges is still on the board at this point.
I also am. We know that Pooh has one of them finished, and he also marked Kill a Boss throwing attacks only, which kind of telegraphs some priority on Forges. So Team Red is probably at this point not going to push Forges, and Team Green knows that Pooh is eventually going to go for Forges. They just don't like doing it quite yet.
A very nice fight here, though. And yeah, GG's to Adolf, by the way, for killing Romina now. going to have access to that burning ceiling tree, and is upgrading now the death poison bottle from Tiolige. So he's going to be going for that perfume bottle only kill on a boss.
Yeah, there seems like some interesting sequencing to do that, but I guess it makes sense. Which easy boss does Adef have remaining? It looks like Dane.
Dane.
A couple other options would be like Idrid or Mariga as far as easy bosses go, but Dane is right next to the path that you're always going to go on. And if he's still alive, he's quick. And this should be yet another square for Team Red, and barring some very unlikely incident from Adef or some crazy fast gameplay from Pooh.
And yeah, we're seeing Senesax here again on Aggie's screen here, a little bit beyond half health right now at this point, which is really nice. But yeah, V-Sweat going for that Jagged Peak Drake that I was talking about. Yep. Both of them kind of in a little bit of a race here. I do think Sweat actually wins the Dragon Boss's square race, going for that nice repose right into that eyeball.
Yep. And as we can see, Senesax causing problems. That it did turn into an incident like I suspected it maybe could have. And now Aggie, from his double up play, is only going to get one of the 2 squares.
And there it is, 3 dragon bosses being marked. And Aggie immediately going, oh no.
Yeah.
I used too much time. He would have gotten it if he didn't have, sadly, an incident on Senesax here, getting 3 or 4 deaths on it. But as we mentioned, such a hard fight. Such a hard fight
Very
to kind
difficult.
of pull off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's easy to look at these professional Elden Ring gamers that always make everything look so easy and say, oh yeah, I can do that, no problem. It is so hard.
Yeah. And it's funny too, like I have a bingo channel in my Discord where people play, like, just to try out the mod and everything. And the first thing that I always see from like new players is like, dude, this is hard. Like, dude, I'm having a hard time. I'm like, yeah. Like it looks easy, right? When you watch players that have practiced this day in and day out for 2 months straight, you're like, oh yeah, that actually doesn't look that bad. I could probably do that. And then you try it yourself. And you're like, dang, this takes a hot minute. And there it is, though, Senesax for Aggie. Yeah, gotta grab that square now. 17-12. Team Red needing only 2 more squares.
Yep, Team Red showing that perfume bottle only. Also, as we can see, Team Red has a huge lead on acquire the full Gravebird armor set. Team Green is pretty much not going to be able to contest that at all. And then Swed is kind of in this position where he just needs to get 1 more square. And if he does that, Adef is able to claim Gravebird armor set, and then it's game over. And as we can see, Adef is currently pursuing the other pieces of the Gravebird armor set before heading to Enir Ilum. And Swed is potentially going for painting rewards. That's something that's up by this grace. I don't believe he has this painting quite yet, but maybe just grabbing this grace for a little bit later. He's porting out to Cerulean Coast. Maybe having St. Trina talk to him is his idea here.
It could be for sure. And for Adef, actually, this is a really good position to be in because he's grabbing the Gravebird armor set, but also he's near a forge now. So if he really wanted to, he could try and double dip here a little bit, progressing multiple squares at the same time, being like, you know what, I'll grab the Gravebird anklets here that I can snag, and then I'll go towards the forge. But as soon as I say that, Adef does pour it out, and is going to go ahead and just finish out that Gravebird armor set for his team, and possibly give them 18, their 18th square.
I think Adef is hoping that Swed gets a St. Trina square before he gets all the way up to the Gravebird armor set. And I really don't blame Adef for not going for that synergy play that you mentioned there, because from his perspective, Adef simply needs to claim Gravebird armor set, and Swed needs to claim one of the other squares.
Yep.
Which I don't think is a bad call to be making here at all. Tell Swed, all right, you win one of them. I'm going to go win the 1 square that I have an advantage on, and then we win the game.
Right. No, exactly. And we have Aggie here now working on Hippo. But, yeah, that's kind of definitely a tactic here that has been happening a lot in Season 4. The Season 4 bingo mod and everything, which is once you are ahead, you kind of want to go for, like, the longest distance square possible. and just assume that the other player that is behind is not going to go for the farthest square themselves because they want to block the immediate next easiest thing instead to try and see if they're sniping you. So it's a bit of a mind game of being like, hey, am I going to do the shortest thing on the board or am I going to do the longest thing on the board? And it's a little bit of a gamble, which is always really, really fun.
That is one of the strategies that evolved from this realization where players eventually realize that, okay, if I'm ahead in an end game, all I need to do is do something that my opponent isn't doing.
Right.
And if I'm behind in an end game, what I need to do is everything that my opponent is doing, I just need to do it faster than them, which leads to all sorts of very interesting strategies. Like you mentioned, going for really unoptimal late game squares for what seems like not much of a reason, or going for the really early game fast rush squares because your opponent would be thinking, all right, he knows that I know that I need to do what he's doing, so he's not going to go for what I think he should be doing. It's that meta game mind gaming that you mentioned. But the most interesting strategy that I think that has developed from all of it is splitting progress. Oftentimes we'll see players that are in the lead will develop progress towards multiple different squares, and whenever their opponent marks one of them, they know that they have a lead on another, which is good news for them if they're already in the lead.
Right. 100%. And we're seeing here, it looks like that Aggie might be working on killing the Frenzy NPC, which is a longer distance square, including painting rewards, as he does have that grace for Senesax. So he might be trying to go for both of them here. With killing a Frenzy NPC being longer distance, it would make sense for Team Red to go for that, because again, they could go ahead and be like, hey, this is something that they're kind of maybe aiming for to try and get, because it's maybe the most uncontested square on the board, as getting to the Frenzy NPC does take quite a while, and it also clears a catacomb. So this could be not a bad play at all from Team Green. Sorry. I had to read the names to make sure I'm saying the right color. Yeah, this is
I think we actually are seeing this splitting progress idea from Swed, because he developed towards St. Trina, and now oh, he needed to break the rune. I see. Okay, I lied. He's not splitting progress. In order to gain access to Crescent Knight's area, you need to break Miquella's Great Rune, and you do that either by approaching the front side of Shadowkeep or by going around the back side of Shadowkeep and going far enough along that path. And that'll take down this fog wall that's pretty much right where Swed is right now, and allow you access into Crescent Knight's arena, which eventually allows you access to St. Trina. And from our perspective, as we can see here, it looks like Team Green is making the wrong guesses. They're going for squares that Team Red is not going for, but also they're in a really, really hard spot.
Very tough spot, for sure. Yeah, in order for Team Green to try and catch up, they have to, or actually win, they have to get every single square at this point for a majority. Otherwise, they could possibly still tie. Right now, Aggie working on painting rewards, and Pooh working on catacombs. And Pooh did mark those 2 forges, by the way, so still a 3-square lead for Team Red, but Team Green slowly catching up over time here. Going to be going for that Death Knight catacomb, while V-Swed is going to be going for St. Trina Talk to You, which requires you to kill Putrescent Knight, and then afterwards talk to an NPC and die to them 4 times. And then you get a cutscene with that NPC talking to you in your sleep, telling you that Miquella is not necessarily unfit to be a god, but more or less that it would be very unwise for Miquella to become a god because it is a prison to be a god.
This square is pretty funny with the way that you need to complete it. You essentially need to go drink a death potion like 5 times in a row. And eventually St. Trina decides to start talking to you.
Very interesting quest line, for sure. But Ada Fury is going to be really, really close to grabbing that last armor piece for the Gravebird armor set. The headpiece being an Aenear Limb, as we mentioned. Going to be getting past these birds here. Aenear Limb probably has some of the worst enemy placements of the whole DLC. having, first off, there's a very infamous staircase that has 2 enemies that are in not so good reachable places that start spawning things underneath the character and that do a lot of damage and stagger you. And then after that staircase, the place that Ada just got past is 4 grave birds that start spewing a bunch of discs as well. So a lot of projectiles you have to deal with while traversing these rooftops. But luckily for Ada, doing a really good job here, getting past all of those really tough areas and going straight for that Gravebird headpiece, going to be grabbing possibly that 18th square for his team.
Yep, there it is, as we see. And Team Green's only remaining hope is to claim the remaining 4 squares to get a tie. And as we can see, PK Wed's right next to Putrescent Knight, and Aggie's nowhere close. Pooh is nowhere close. They've unfortunately made the wrong guesses. But that's kind of the position that you end up in when you're behind on majority. You have to make guesses, and you have to make them correctly. And unfortunately for Team Green, they just didn't do that.
And it's always fun, to be honest, when you do have like the post commentary afterwards of someone that was behind on bingo. You're like, what was the thought? It's like, I was guessing. It's like at some point you just don't know. Exactly. You're genuinely just like, okay, I have 3 options right now. And based on the logic that the player that's in the lead goes for the longest square, but they know that that's the best option, so they might go for the shortest square. So instead, they might not go for either, and they go for the middle fastest square. It's just a full-on guess at that point, to where nothing really matters, and you just try and guess correctly. It's such a huge coin flip every single time. It's very, very tough.
Yep. And on this specific board, I really don't blame Pooh for targeting Catacombs plus the Frenzy NPC synergy. I think that's the most synergistic idea on the board remaining. And for that reason, probably makes the most sense to go for it. But as you mentioned, you can make a rationale for every single square selection, because the objective is not to go for the best squares anymore. It's to go for the squares that your opponents are going for.
Yeah, there we go, though. Pooh sadly dying to that Death Knight. That Death Knight can be really, really tough. The Death Knights are really, really cool. They do not bleed, obviously, because they're dead. But they do frost. And in this case, however, Lightning is on the Great Katana for Pooh, and that just deals some decent damage. And if you go ahead and you're able to bait out the backstabs, you can kind of make this fight a little bit easier. But they are very heavy hitting, especially this one that has the dual axes. It's very, very quick. It deals a lot of damage. And they also have a healing move, which if they're allowed to grab you, do a grab attack, they can suck the life literally out of you, and they gain that life back.
Yep. Although, I'm looking at this, and Team Green is having Pooh go for Catacombs and having Aggie go for Frenzy NPC, which is that's a little bit of anti-synergy there, because you have to complete a Catacomb to do the Frenzy NPC. So you should have one player target both of those squares and have the other go for Putrescent Knight. But at this point, maybe they've resigned to their fate.
Yeah, Sweat here already died one time towards Saint Trina. Gonna die again. Gonna go ahead and do those map ports to make it a little bit quicker. There's that grab attack I was talking about, and Pooh, I think the life sucked out of him in this fight here. Guy has to be careful not to get hit as he heals up. Very nice dodges. Goes for that backstab that I was talking about. Baiting out those backstabs is pretty important.
Yep, it's definitely a safe way to fight this boss.
Yeah, 100%. Right here, I think going for his last death now should be able to get Saint Trina to talk to him and make Tiolier jealous, and the same notion. For anyone that doesn't know, there's a little bit of lore drop. Tiolier's mission is to hear Saint Trina. He loves everything about sleep and wants to hear Saint Trina talk to him. And instead, we get to hear Saint Trina talk to us, and he doesn't believe us. And gets pissed off that we actually talk to the NPC, and then we have to fight him. So that's a cool little thing that they added into the game as well. And there it is. That slow fade out from Swed shows that St. Trina is going to talk to us. And there it is. And 19 squares for Team Red. GG's to Team Red there for winning majority at 19.
Yep, congratulations. This was a fun game. 6x6.
It's
2v2.
Oh, Jesus. Hello.
Hello.
We just got pulled in there real quick. What's up, boys?
GG's, everybody. That was so fun.
That was so fun. I want to do way more.
That was pretty fun, man.
I'm muted?
In Discord, you're muted, yeah.
Oh, I'm muted?
Yeah.
You're not muted.
Not muted for
Oh,
me.
apparently
Yeah,
you're
not
just
muted
muted for me.
Oh, just you.
Just for me,
Because
apparently.
you hear me from there.
I can hear you. You're sitting beside me. I can
Yeah,
see
we've
you.
already muted each other
I
in
see, I
Discord.
got
That
you.
was fun. That was a lot of fun. We had a good time. How hard was that to commentate? You know?
Very.
It was a little tricky. There was a lot happening. We missed some deaths and things, but I mean, it's bound to happen. Like I mentioned, like this in season 3, it was the same thing. Like, there was so much happening that like you're gonna miss something. But I think we did pretty well actually for covering most of it, especially with it being a 6-6 board.
Yeah, you know what? Missing deaths, like, is someone that may have had 1 or 2. Like, it's totally fine.
There might be a couple. There might be a smidge.
What was the?
Mostly flawless.
What
game.
was the play of the game? The dragons? Is that what happened? Was that the moment?
I mean, it definitely was a moment. Aggie obviously had quite the
Which one of you
incident.
did not Senesax?
I was on my way, and then I heard Pooh say the word Senesax, and then I was like,
Yeah, there.
I was like, you know,
I need to be clear. There was a good amount of me hearing Pooh complain through V-Swed's headset. Like, I can hear Pooh like, Senesax is such a bitch. And then I'm like, okay, great. So we shouldn't do that.
Wow.
so I heard you guys say
That's funny because
Pooh, I told you. We just need.
I know. I
should
should have been more vague. Not vague, but like literally just throwing him off. You know what I mean? The whole time.
To be fair though, many times during this match, I told V-Swed in confidence what I was doing, and then he repeated it verbatim out loud.
That's fine. I knew that they couldn't contest it. Yeah, it's totally fine.
How'd you guys feel doing a 6x6 board with teams? How did that feel?
It was pretty fun.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Very
super
fun, but I feel like the whole time I had no idea what my next square was. Like I was, I was just going one by one. Like there was no plan.
I had a really great time.
It was
with
fun.
the 6x6. I think it's just such a big board.
Like
there's always something to do.
At the end, it was fine, but the first initial pop-up of the board, I was like, "That's a lot of time."
Yeah, like
there's so much on my face right now.
That's what I was having issues.
Yeah,
with
once it started getting pared down, like once because it's just like finding the early squares, like literally like finding them on the board was hard.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and and then remembering what you were doing, or like where, because like you're always trying to think of like what's the next square I'm gonna do. And then, I don't know, it's just so
tough.
hard to do at that point.
super tough.
Plus we're in the North Pole, so it's freezing.
What was like? What was like the team like speech before going into this match? Like, what was like the plan? Any plans from each of you?
Did you have a speech?
No,
prepared?
me and Aggie were just kind of winging it. We were kind of vibing.
So
Well,
It was a vibe-based run.
V-Swed and I said, like, before the match started, V-Swed was like, how about I kill, you collect? And I was like, okay. And then the board popped up, and
Nothing of
literally
that happened.
all hell broke loose.
yeah,
And
that was the plan.
I think I killed way more.
Yeah,
than
honestly, I was the collector, honestly. Like, I barely killed. The only things I killed were dragons, I think.
It's just truly impossible on a board this size. I mean, I missed some of the early game squares just by not seeing them.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's on a board this size, you just have to roll with the punches and pray to God you just happen to see the right thing.
And I went to Mariga thinking base game boss was on this board, and it wasn't. So I was like, well, I'm down here now. That's fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun, and most of all, it was for charity. Although I'm still looking for that dub.
Yeah, it's gotta come.
We'll get it next time, Pooh. Right. It's
Hey,
coming.
Boo, hey, don't
Coming.
worry about it. We gave you a special shout out for the hand-to-hand lamenter that Sweb was
I
going
literally
for. We're
said
like,
that
yo,
to Adaf. I was like, I got what I'm doing.
You
from
went
Pooh.
hand-to-hand
Oh,
Lamenter?
yeah, I
Dude,
two-cycled
hand-to-hand's
them.
the best thing
Two-cycled.
with Lamenter.
I put up
It's so good.
20,000
Yeah,
damage
it was great.
Yeah.
in just one combo.
Dude, hand-to-hand
It's
is the best
ridiculous.
Lamenter weapon.
I saw Pooh do
I'm
it in his match.
convinced
I was like,
now.
oh, that's it right there. That's what we want.
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't have to
that's optimal.
remind me. Bushi.
Boosh.
God.
Where did this Booshy thing come from?
I needed to ask Domo about what the tech was because I was like, I don't know what this tech is. I never got the chance to see it.
It was, yeah.
Oh, true, yeah.
It's good. Very good.
Yeah,
it's really,
hand-to-hand's
really
best
solid.
elementary thing. Well,
dude, and chat was making fun of me, dude. Holy.
and chat doesn't know what they're talking about, especially mine right here with this game. Listen, gentlemen, most of all, I want to say thank you all for coming today. It's been really fun. I've gotten to know all of you guys a bit more over this last year, and I'm very, very happy you have adopted me into your Elden Ring cruise, and it means a lot to me. And I'm really glad you guys could share the holiday special here with me this year.
We love you, Pooh.
Yeah, 100%.
We love
Pooh.
I love you guys.
Bushi, man.
I really appreciate it. Domo, Bushi, you guys on the mic are Bushi. You guys on the mic.
I like Bushi.
I know, I'm ruining it.
I like it.
I don't know why I'm like bitter at him for beating me in my last game. Like he didn't have something to play. You know what I mean? Like
I even apologized. This is crazy.
No, but you guys are amazing on the mic. You guys are just everyone's so incredible, and I really, really appreciate you guys hanging here and donating your time for a great cause today. This is it was like my end of year thing that I just like try to nag all my friends to do, and I mean it. Like you guys are my friends now, so thank you guys for doing it. I appreciate it. So
let's go, more friends.
Thank you,
Super
Pooh.
fun.
Thank you. Pooh.
Merry Christmas, and
thanks for
everybody
having us, man.
donate.
Donate.
Everybody donate.
Right.
donate. Yes.
Do it now.
All right, donate. What do we got? What do we?
Should we all point at the same time
Yeah.
to the camera?
Yeah, let's go.
Donate.
Let's go check on
There you go.
Ralph and Santa here and see what they're up to, and then we got some more games coming up.
More games.
More games.